3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. By the time you're watching this, it'll be 2023. And I got something on my lens. There we go. By the time you're watching this, it'll be 2023. It is December 31st, 2022, around 7 a.m. and it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit up at the garden. These crazy high temperatures, and all the snow melted again. So, as predicted in my previous videos, if you go back and look at the most previous two with all the snow, I state in those videos that by the first week of January, when I'm trying to plant this with short day onions, all the snow would be melted. And I was able to predict that because I've been watching the patterns move through this land for a few years now, and the snow always melts before we get another snow, and the snow has melted completely twice now, and the ground is thawing. We never really had a hard freeze of the ground to begin with, and it kind of froze when it got cold for the first week, but then it snowed, so it insulated the ground. So now it's gonna be 40, 53 today. It's 40 right now, and they're saying 60 in a few days. So that will be in the first week of January. We're gonna have a 60-degree day, which is not normal, not the average per se for southern Vermont in January. January is supposed to be our coldest year, but I was looking back at last year's records, and on January 1st, 2022, it was 54 degrees. And by the third week of January, it dropped back down to -8. So we're not out of the woods yet, but as I stated in 3 videos ago, if you go back to that one, it's what's growing in December, I state that each year the winter takes longer and longer to set in, and on the opposite end, in the springtime, it takes longer and longer to become warmer. So it's almost as if the two sides are swapping, and it's making me think, are we just going to come to this middle period of where there's no more winter, no more spring, and then everything? We don't know. I don't know. But if that happens, that's going to take a while. But I also haven't been here for long enough to see that in the long term, only short term on the 3-year scale, not the 20 or even 100-year observation scale. So we'll keep taking the observations and recording the records. But in the meantime, take advantage of this warm weather. It's nice to be able to see the garden all again, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the short day onion sets in the mail coming from Kentucky. He keeps saying that the weather, they had snow and cold weather down in Kentucky. There was a cold snap across the entire US. But now, again, nobody's talking about the warm in the north. So it's almost like it's reverse. It's cold down south and then it's warm up here. It's crazy. But like I said, it will dip down. We still have February, March, April, May. Could be a lot more snow to come, and there's definitely a lot more cold to come. But all I can do right now is just start seeds indoors. The grow lights are working very good. Got some cabbage going, some kale. Something we could talk about is this really hardy sage. It has not died. We've seen 8 degrees, and I'm not exactly sure what variety it is. Somebody was just gonna throw this out, and then it already overwintered 1 year in their garden last year, so I replanted it here, and it still has a wonderful smell to it. Do the little scratching. It's a beautiful thing to have this nice, still pungent herb, and tomorrow will be January. Yeah, sage. So hardy perennial. Plant some sage in your garden. So before we got the on our last thaw day, which would be a week ago, so we're talking like the 3rd week of December, before we got the last snow, because it snowed, it all melted, and then before it snowed again, the ground was thawed, so I was able to tighten up the low tunnels. If you go back and look in some of the other videos, you could see that these were really starting to weigh down. That second one actually caved in. It might as well have caved in completely, but I was able to reset them, tie them back real good. I actually buried them under the mulch now instead of just having them on top of the rocks, because we got 50 mile an hour winds, and it blew out the backs, so the wind just came through. I don't from either end, but the plants were doing good in there. I mean, I wasn't able to really see too much in here, but it looks like there's a lot of good greens still growing. I harvested some carrots. The garlic will start growing again. The green garlic will start growing once we go past February 2nd. Yeah, I've talked about what's going to happen with these tunnels in some previous videos, so I'll just stop talking about it and wait for it to be recorded when the time comes. But like I said, in the meantime, it's just take advantage of this thaw period and envision what the plans are for the 2023 growing season. I'm really excited for all of these cuttings that I had harvested in the fall. 5 different varieties of elderberry cutting, 3 different varieties of currants, some josta berries. This is some perennial yarrow. This will come back with flourishing medicinal flowers in the springtime, and hoping that the soil is still thawed under this low tunnel. This one has 2 layers of protection. Both of those have 1. This will have mustard greens ready to regrow in February. The root systems I cut back in the fall, and they will remain alive in there, and once it goes above that daylight point, they will start to regrow. Planning on getting this planted with potatoes in March, pre-sprouting in February, and having a harvest of baby potatoes by May, along with, if everything aligns, a short day onion harvest by May as well, in my 5A northern climate. And this bed is so this whole pasture is wild strawberries, and this side gets mowed by the property owner. So by the time that the strawberries are just about to put on their fruit, or they're set in flowers, they haven't set fruit yet, but by the time they're about to set their fruit, it's time to mow. So never get to harvest too many of the wild strawberries. And it's wild strawberries, like this might just seem like a grass pasture, but this is a biodiverse this is a pasture filled with genetic diversity, many different strains of grasses, herbs, flowers, and so forth. So I transplanted some of the wild strawberries from the pasture to the garden. So in here we have a thimbleberry cutting, an elderberry that got rooted last season, some garlic, surrounded by 12 strawberry transplants, wild strawberries. So these will be the mini ones. And that is that. So stay tuned. One love wholeness. We will see you in the springtime.